Welcome back to Urban Creative. In this video, we're making soft, fluffy, homemade rolls or buns inspired by the lovely recipe from Farmhouse own Boone for their hamburger buns. These are perfect for family dinners or anytime you want a nice, soft burger bun or roll. So let's get started. To start, you want to collect all your ingredients. So you'll need warm water, honey, yeast, flour, salt, and melted butter. I'm using simple pantry staples and I love minimizing the amount of dishes I use. So I am going to do our first step straight in my measuring jug. First, combine your warm milk and honey in a bowl. I've just used my measuring jug and I've heated up the milk in the microwave just in short bursts to make sure it's the right temperature. As you can see here, I also had a bit of a mishap with my honey and I do end up sort of getting it all over the container and it's a little bit of a debacle, but we get there in the end. And we're just whisking that together so it's combined really well, putting the yeast in, giving it another bit of a stir, and then leaving it. Now I'm combining the instant dry yeast with our milk and honey mixture, and I'm going to whisk that up to make sure it is all thoroughly combined and incorporated before we move on to our next step. Our next step is to add our sourdough discard, and because we're using a combination of the dry yeast and the sourdough discard or starter, depending on the recipe you choose to use, I don't actually have to wait for it to be bubbly and foamy with the dry active yeast because we've got those two combined together. We're cracking our eggs in here also. Now add your flour and your salt. Make sure to pour in the melted butter, and then we're going to start stirring until a dough forms. You can do this by hand or with a stand mixer. I personally love using my KitchenAid, which is why I am putting it all into my KitchenAid mixer bowl right now to then place it in there with the dough hook and let it knead, incorporate together and do its thing. Now we need to knead the dough until it's smooth and elastic. This can take about 8 to maybe 12 minutes by hand or anywhere from 5 to 8 in the mixer. I am using my KitchenAid, as I mentioned before, with the dough hook on, and I'm going about 2, maybe 3 at the moment to get this incorporated. This does a fantastic job. However, I do find I can't really do larger batches than what I'm currently doing in this video. Otherwise, it sort of struggles a bit and starts to bounce around the bench, which is a bit entertaining. Also a little bit scary. I don't really want my KitchenAid falling off the bench. So just keep going until it forms a dough. It's no longer sticky and it will actually feel amazing. I do periodically stop the machine, lift up, readjust the dough. That's just me making sure it's kneaded really consistently and really well throughout the entirety of the dough. As you can see, it does take a little while for the dough to form. It's going a bit crazy at the end here and coming out the sides, but that's fine. Next, you want to place it in a separate greased bowl, cover and let it rise for about an hour and a half, or until it's doubled in size. Once your dough has risen, you want to punch it down, bring it out and divide it into 8 pieces and shape each into a small bowl and then place on parchment-lined baking sheet or silicone mat. As you can see here, I've decided to attempt to make hot dog sort of shaped rolls. So I'm doing a bit of a rectangle shape here, rolling it up, pinching the ends and folding them over and just sort of trying to create a little bit of tension to roll it into a hot dog-ish shape. This is the second time I have made this recipe, so I wanted to do a little bit of experimenting with shapes that I could make and to see how it comes out. For my normal hamburger or dinner rolls, I just create it into a ball, try and pinch it up as much as I can, and using the palm of my hand and the edge of my hand, I just sort of roll around and around on the bench, creating tension and just trying to get it to my desired shape using those techniques. As you can see here, I've used some of that pinching and bringing towards the center that I mentioned, rolling around in the palm of my hand to create that hamburger roll shape, and then placing it into my tray to then go into its next rise. This next rise will be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on the temperature of your kitchen or where you have them. You want them to sort of double in size again at this point. Brushing the top of them with an egg wash is a great way to give them that golden, crispy crunch when they come out of the oven. I do have quail, so I choose to use quail eggs for this because I find one egg is the perfect amount for this application with little to no waste. Bake at 375 Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius for about 20-25 minutes or until the tops are golden brown. Let them cool slightly on a wire rack before slicing, and as you can see, these rolls are perfect for burgers, for sandwiches, for hot dogs. You could make them smaller as dinner rolls. They're soft, buttery, and full of homemade flavor. I will leave a link to the recipe in the description below. If you enjoyed this recipe, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Urban Creative for more from scratch cooking and homemade goodness. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.